the global pandemic, we are forced to deal with different types of change. So how can we build the future if the current situation is uncertain, high risk, and full of instability? Hi, my name is Licia Demid, and I'm your host for this channel about technology, innovation, and impacts on society. Innovation is about change. They also require the change of our behaviors, routines, and attitudes. In this episode, I'd like to focus on the people side of change. And I'm delighted to present you to my guest, Tiza Pyle. She's the founder of Pyle Consulting Group, the author of 3 insightful books on personal change management and transformation, the coach for leaders and teams, the inventor of the base model for change, personal development, and growth. Hello and welcome, Tiza.
Thank you, Lesia. Hello. I'm very glad to be here with you today so we can talk a little bit about my favorite topic, change.
Yes. So your work is centered around personal change and transformation. Why did you choose this area of expertise, and what was your path to it?
I believe that in order to grow, we need to change. And it's part of who we are. We change from the moment we are born, and we see change in nature. And this ability to grow and have hope and move forward has always been of interest to me. In addition, my life has had many changes. Some of people say I have provoked them, which I accept, but others may have come to be unwanted, unexpected. And so over the many years I have lived, I started to notice how I deal with change and how others deal with change around me. And that prompted me to study it more and better understand what happens to people internally when external changes hit them. Because external changes are going to be with us all the time. But the way we respond to it makes a huge difference in our ability to cope, to grow, to move ahead, and to be present in this ever-changing world. That's one of the major reasons that I became very interested in change and spent a lot of time learning, studying, and doing all of that. In addition, my work in corporations involved leadership development and personal development. And if you're going to grow, you're going to have to change. So everything has connected to this very important topic of the ability to see opportunities and move towards them.
Can you tell us a little bit about your past and your career?
Sure. I was born in Brazil and finished my undergraduate degree there, oldest of a family of 5 children, a traditional Brazilian family. And my state, Minas Gerais in Brazil, has a lot to do with the American Midwest. I met my husband, an American, and his specialty was space physics. So in the 60s, space physics was not something that you did in Brazil. And so at the time, we decided that if we wanted to go ahead and get married, that it made sense for me to come to the US. And coming to the US was also something I had wanted as part of one of my dreams, to grow and have an opportunity to see different places. So my biggest change, or my initial biggest change, was coming from Brazil to the US by myself. I'm the kind of immigrant that came alone. All my family is still in Brazil, 4 brothers and sisters and cousins and nephews and the whole thing. And so that was my big one. I had a thought about going to graduate work here, but made a commitment that we were going to support my husband finish his PhD in physics, which he did. And we lived by the University of Chicago in Illinois, in the US for many years. And my husband started his career there. Other changes I have made was going to work in downtown Chicago. And I was a translator from Portuguese to English, and learned a lot from being in corporate America at that time. Eventually moved back to the University of Chicago and worked there to help with my children. We have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. So it has been a lot of change. Another big change in my life was moving from the academic environment at the University of Chicago to corporate America in downtown Chicago in the 80s. Had a very negative experience after 9 years with a very difficult boss and lost the job. So I had to find a new job. Was very grateful that I found the right career for me that used my energy and my ability to get things done. Was there for many years, and then decided to leave corporate America and dedicate some time to finish my doctorate. I did all the academic work for my doctorate while working, but to write the dissertation, I couldn't do that and work at the same time. So I left. And that's when the big surprise came, when my husband asked me, would you move with me to another state? Because he had been invited to do a unique project at the University of Delaware in the east of the United States. So guess what? I moved, and so left all of my support mechanism here in the Chicago area, and we went to Delaware. That was a huge change for me that I didn't realize the impact of moving into a new city, into a new environment, a new culture, and I had to work through that. And that gave me a lot of insights as well as what happens to change even when you want it, but you have to acknowledge the impact of that. The other big change was my health. I was extremely overweight, and I made the decision that if I wanted to live to see my youngest granddaughter graduate from college, I had to do something. I opted for the gastric bypass surgery in 2009 and lost 130 pounds in my 60s. So that was a huge change. It is the topic of one of my books, Fat Hurts, showing my transition and starting to show people what you can do with the model. The other change then was my husband's health. That took a very serious downturn. And that's when I left corporate America in 2019, continue to deteriorate. We moved into a retirement community, and that is the short ebook I have, Embracing Life's Changes, in how I use the model I had created to make this change. And perhaps the most significant change with the pandemic and everything that I have to do right now is to learn to redefine my life as a single person, as my husband passed away in May. So you can see that there is a lot of change in my life, but I am very grateful and very fortunate that through all of this, I learned that I had a process. I did this for some reason. And I started then reflecting on these changes and formulating this plan that Leslie mentioned at the beginning that I call the base model for change. I'm writing the process to write another book right now that's going to go in more depth in what you need to do internally to make this model work. Continue to share with people my experiences. It's kind of fun for me to be at my age, and I feel a strong desire to continue to share with younger generations, my generation, and others, that change is possible. It takes work, but it's possible. And that's what I want to do, continue to do as a purpose going forward and redefining my life.
Thank you so much, Tiza, for sharing your experience with us. So I would like to speak a little bit about the fear of change. So in your book, you wrote, and I really want to cite it, most people prefer to stay with what they know. Fear is a common reaction. We have a desire to hold on to the safety of the present. So why do you think it's happening with us that we have this reaction of fear and sometimes freeze? And is there anything we can do to let go of the past and open up ourselves to the new opportunities?
Okay. This is not my specialty, but I have done a lot of writing, a lot of reading, that our human brain, that our primary brain, has been created to protect ourselves for survival. And the unknown challenges our survival. So the natural reaction that has been wired in our primary brain and our primitive brain is to protect ourselves and be afraid of what's coming now. We have come a long ways in the evolution. Our brains continue to evolve, but we have to acknowledge and accept the fact that the unknown is not comfortable for us. The amount of change that our culture has seen in the past 50 years or 20 years or 10 years, it keeps moving, has accelerated that, and in a sense, has created more of a pressure for us to be afraid of what's going to happen. So uncertainty is not easy to deal with, but if we become aware of this, we have ways to control this, understand where it's coming from, and realizing that the tiger is not behind us, that we can understand this and make a different choice in how we think and how we react to changes right now. It is particularly important right now because the world, at least many of generation, mine included, we have not experienced the extent of a worldwide pandemic since the 1918-19. We have had wars, we have had plagues, we have had many things, but has not been something that has impacted the whole world. So it is natural that we are uncertain, but I also believe that we have the ability to understand this, control it, and go step by step so we can move towards more stability. Even if it's not external stability, is internal stability, to have the confidence that we have the ability to move forward. If nothing else, just to be quiet, take a deep breath, understand stress is here, but work towards that. I hope that addresses your question, Leslie, because we're human and humans don't like change. But for us to grow, we need to accept that change is necessary. Think about a baby. When you think about the changes that we go through from birth to age 2, from age 2 to 6, now in my stage of life, learning how the changes in aging, all of this grows. And if we become fearful of that, then it paralyzes us. So it is upon us to create that internal fortitude to move forward, acknowledge it, and believing that we can do something different and be present in our day-to-day.
Yes, this is wonderful. And it also means that we need to work with our brain, with our conscious, and really learn how to take risk and not be afraid of change. So you also mentioned in your book and in our discussion right now that the change is possible. And you also wrote in your book that the pain of not changing has to be greater than the pain of changing. So is there any ways how can we understand when it's time to change? Maybe some signals or triggers or sort of a red flags that a person can understand that it's time now to change.
Okay. There is and it's in the book as well, that there is a very well-known theory of readiness for change. And I think that's part of what we need to acknowledge, that changes has stages. They are not linear. Sometimes they are circular. And the first signal that things need to change, sometimes we're not even aware of it, but the world around us becomes aware that something is not quite going well. And that sometimes you hear a friend say, "Are you sure this is right?" So we start being aware, and that happens a lot into addiction. That's not what we're dealing here, but sometimes people know that somebody's having a problem. Now, the first signal for you is to acknowledge in a more simple way, something is not fitting what I want to do right now, is that sense of discomfort. So that's the first signal, is not what I want to do. And then you can start into the process. What do I really want to do? Not an easy task. And I think we need to realize that change is work. It's doable, but you need to have the willingness to do the work to make the change. And it's easier to be complacent. I can tell stories, and perhaps I can be candid right now. This isolation of the pandemic has not been easy on me. And I know that I need to get back to exercise, but it's much more fun for me to go to the gym than it is to stay in front of my television and do something in YouTube. But those are the things that I need to go forward and make a decision, because there is a reason. for me, one of the things that we need to realize that something is not right. What do I want it to be? And creating a vision for the future is very important. It doesn't have to be 10 years from now. It could be, what do I want to be doing next month? What I want to be doing in 2 months from now? Is that strong enough for me to make the work that I need to do to have it gone? You need to go inside yourself. And I have a firm belief that the most powerful tool that we have is our mind and our ability to make something happen for ourselves. People say, you like change, it's easy for you. Okay, I grant that, but I have seen many people make significant changes in their lives once they believed that what they want made sense for them or made sense for what they wanted in the future. And that's why this saying, I believe that I'm not unique in saying this, change is not easy, it may be painful, but the pain of not changing has to be stronger than what the work you need to do in terms of change. And if you don't feel that, probably you're not going to make some change. Not everybody is going to be willing to do the work for change. And it's okay. I'm not saying everybody has to change, but once you create that internal desire to want something different, there are tools, there are processes, there are ways that you can move towards that. And it will take time. You need to be patient with yourself. And what's most important in my experience personally, and what I say in my books, you have to deeply believe that you can do this, but you don't have to do it alone. And that's the other piece of the model. Who can help me into this process? It's interesting. I'm finding that a challenge for me right now, and I'm again being transparent and candid, is that it's not easy for me to ask for help. So that's something that I need to work on. How do I identify what I need? How do I ask for the help? And how do I accept the help in my journey to reach what I need to do?
So it has to do with the awareness about yourself.
Yes, has to do. You need to know who you are. And that to me is an important piece.
So the thing that you just explained also lead to my following question on the vision and clarity of the future.
Okay.
So you and other authors in this area speak a lot about the clarity of vision. So why it's so important? And also before you start to respond, for example, right now, if we take the context of current situation, there is a lot of uncertainty, and both companies and people really don't know how their future might look like.
Yeah.
So how to create this vision of the future when the conditions are not so good?
It's interesting, Lesia, because I can give you a personal example. After my husband passed away, a lot of people used to ask me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Do what you want. And I was trying to do a process of living with the pandemic and figuring out what I would do for the rest of my life. And that was creating some anxiety. And then all of a sudden I realized my vision of the future is going to have to be shorter term and not a big picture, but what do I need to do for the next 2 months, for the next 3 months until the pandemic? Once I know, and the world knows what we're going to do, how we're going to be, is there a vaccine? There's so many uncertainties, then I can be able to do a broader vision of the future. So for me, it was a good awareness that your vision does not have to be for the rest of your life, that your vision can be redefined, fine-tuned in smaller chunks. So for me right now, my vision is, what do I need to do for the next 6 months to understand where I am, be accepting who I am, what are my needs? And I decided writing the next book perhaps is the most important thing I need to do right now, because it will give me a focus. So I think from a corporate perspective, from people who lost jobs and from all of these painful changes that we're doing, perhaps your vision is shorter. What do I need to do even for the next month? what will be the most important thing for me to create stability, to create hope, and to create a path that I can continue to follow and modify. I have said something and people laugh at me. I said, if you don't know where you're going, any road can lead you nowhere. So I think that's something that people chuckle, but it's true. You need to know where you're going so you can create a path. Path for your success, as you define it, is very important. And so that is another part of the model, is just make short version. The clarity is what you need to do for the next short term. Eventually, you may want, what do I need to do with my life? What is my purpose? Those are the bigger pictures that take time. And the time right now may not be ready for that because there's way too many uncertainties, especially in companies. For a client who's a corporate client, what do you need to do for the next 2 months to be solvent, or to create new processes, or to change things that are going to give you your ability to continue to perform? And how do you need to deal with your employees? What kind of support they need from you? What kind of processes need to do? So facilitate those discussions that we may not have a vision for the last 10 years, but we can have a vision for the last 6 months. And the clearer this vision is, and the direction is, the more you can help people as a leader to follow you and to contribute and to feel safe and stable in all the uncertainty around us.